This is Jody Denberg from KUTX, and it is my pleasure to see Julian Lennon. It's good to see you, Julian, and also it's especially good to hear you again. Your new album, Jude, your seventh, is out as of September 9th. Where are you today?
I'm at home in my office, the box, conducting interviews, and have been here for weeks now. Absolutely weeks and weeks and weeks. I live in Monaco. I've been here for about 25 years, but I am here in the office. I've been watching everybody else have a lovely summer outside. But hey, you have to make these sacrifices, but it's okay. It's all good. But in all honesty, happy to be here, happy to chat with you once again. So looking forward to what you've got for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start with your last album, Everything Changes. I think we're talking about 2011. Since then, you have been so busy: photography, making documentaries, writing books, your philanthropic foundation, the White Feather Foundation. Yeah. If you were asked to fill out a form with your occupation, what would you choose? What would you say?
The easiest thing to say, really, that I've had to do, really, was I just say artist. It covers a lot of ground. It doesn't define everything, of course, but certainly it's got a good broad coverage to a certain degree. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of years, because I wanted to prove to myself, really, that outside of the music business, that I could be successful on my own terms with any of the other projects that I wanted to, follow through on. As you rightly said, documentary work like Kiss the Ground, the children's books like Touch the Earth, the trilogy, the photography too. But obviously, quite a bit of that came to a halt to a certain degree, I guess you would say, because of the pandemic, and that really was something that made me lean towards music again. And how that happened was because my business manager, who was retiring in the UK, had said he was closing up the office, and he had boxes of stuff, mostly paperwork and files on financial stuff. But lo and behold, there was several boxes, and I mean quite a few, of reel-to-reel tapes with demos of Valotte and Too Late for Goodbyes, a multitude of different formats for other, my God, whatever we went through in the 80s and 90s, I had that format, because we always wanted the next best thing. And so I had all these boxes, and I thought, I wonder if anything's going to be okay on them, because a lot of the stuff were not in boxes, in protective boxes. So I thought, this is probably damaged. It's probably gone forever. But you do this process called baking, where they take your tapes and they save anything that's on there. And I was shocked to discover, when the first tape that I put up on faders on a mixing desk, and there's Every Little Moment, one of the first songs released on the album. And I listened to it, and I'm going, oh my God. I said, I could have recorded this last week. It was the quality was there. The only thing I wanted to change was that it had drum machines before. So I said, okay, I need some real players. So I got a great drummer called Ash Sohn, and another friend, Bill Lawrence, to do some keys on it. I just re-sang the chorus to give it a bit more oomph. But apart from that, just updating the production on it a little bit, and that the track was there, and I'm going, oh my God. And I always loved that track, and there's a lot of them like that, but they just didn't sit right. They didn't have a home on any of the previous albums or any other music projects at that time. So I've now got boxes with songs upon songs and ideas upon ideas that I'd forgotten about, that I'm still going through. I'm rebuilding my home studio now, so I can do all this stuff, when I'm not doing all the other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to go through. This album was, made literally. I mean, it was very reflective, retrospective also, and it has songs from 30 years plus to 20 to 10 years to 5 years to songs that I wrote just before literally just before we mixed the album, a year or two ago. But it's been a long process. But we got there, and I never thought I was going to do another album. I honestly didn't think. I thought, okay, with this stuff, maybe I'll just put a single out. Maybe I'll put an EP out. But it was Hartwig, the head of BMG. He and I got along like a house on fire. And he said, Jules, listen, we've always felt that you've had a bad deal with labels and management before. We want to really support you properly and be there as your partner, with this next record going forward. And so I said, all right, let's give it a shot. And here we are with Jude. And, so far, so good. Fingers are crossed.
So I'm listening to Jude, and I'm noticing that even going as back far to 1984 to Valotte, you favor, and you talked about replacing the drum machines in these older songs that you found, but you favor a polished production style. Excuse me. Was it working with Phil Ramone, your first producer, that instilled that in you, that style, or is that your personal taste? Because it's very identifiable. The new album, Jude, is of a piece with the other 6 records.
Yeah, that's it's a hard one to deny or confirm either way, my lord. Purely because as we grow, we absorb, with or without realizing half the time. This is where a majority of our inspiration comes from, known or unknown. So that's a hard one to say, but I kind of fell into the whole production scenario because when I was doing these demos at home, even on the last album and partly the album before, Photograph Smile, I co-produced that as well. It was all getting to grips with being able to tackle it on my own if I needed to, or wanted to, because it was I wanted to put myself in a position where I didn't need to rely on other people if it came down to that, and partly that happened during the recording or putting together of this album, because I was working with my dearest friend Justin Clayton, who I've known since 11, who's written on multiple albums, and we've been on world tours together. And I brought him in on this because his memory is astonishing when it comes to, he'll say, well, I played that guitar, these strings, and I had that chord going into that amp, and you were wearing a blue sweater. And I'm going, what? I don't know what I had for breakfast yesterday. And so he's one of those guys. I'm just not. So, he was very helpful in cataloging and putting this stuff together. And so he'd also been on an engineering course. So we started this whole project with him engineering here. And of course, when the pandemic hit, everybody he had to go back to England. And so now I'm left in the middle of an album and I'm thinking, well, I haven't engineered for years. And I said, I'm not sure if you could call my skills engineering or production, but, I started twitching again and I decided, okay, let me see if I can do any of this stuff. And the first song that I did on my own was Freedom. And that, to me, set up the soundscape for the rest of the album. The whole feel, the flow, the space between the needing to breathe between tracks and have a flow. And in short, just to finish off, I think it was definitely Spike Stent who mixed the album over the course of the year and the pandemic, which was something else, that really kind of glued all the songs together. It had to be the right arrangement because these songs were from so many decades. But I say what he did to the album, I say he did a Nigel, which is he turned the mixes up to number 11 basically, and it just gave it a glue that I think without him would not have been the same.
All right, a couple more quick questions, and I know we need to
Sure.
wrap up. We're talking about the continuity of the sound of the new record, Jude. It has a continuity with all your other records. Speaking of continuity, the album's title is Jude. Most people know that refers to the Paul McCartney song inspired by your parents' breakup, Hey Jude. It's interesting that you chose to name your new album Jude, knowing that that song must bring up mixed emotions.
Yeah, but it's about forgiveness. It's about getting over stuff. It's about, you know, again, half of this album was done during lockdown, and let me tell you, I was on my own for a long time, and so to try and find a level of balance, a level of peace, a level of freedom, being able to breathe during all of that, you know, took a lot of internal searching, you know, saying to myself in the mirror, literally, well, you know, who am I? What am I doing? You know, am I happy? You know, am I sad? If I'm sad, what do I do to change this? So for me, Jude was very much a coming of age album and the whole process, because it was reflection not only on 30 years, but a life before that, you know, especially with Get Back in the Wings and Sean and I having seen that, and me falling in love with Dad again and the way he used to be when I knew him, you know, as a quirky, sarcastic, funny, extremely talented, smart, intellectual, you know, the list goes on. But that, you know, seeing that film also tied me into the relationships with Paul, and you know, it was just, and the other thing to just tie it all together was that I'd had taken issue with being called John Lennon, because that's my name in my passport, John Charles Julian Lennon, for years, because it always gave me a lot of stress. Going to airports, going through security scenarios, and people would always be wisecracking and smart. They didn't recognize me half the time, and they would say all kinds of stuff. Anyway, after 30 plus years, I kind of had enough, and going through this whole process, you know, the coming of age, I was like, I want to be me. I'm sick of being the other John, you know, and so. In 2020, by default, I switched my name. I switched it from John Charles Julian Lennon to Julian Charles John Lennon. So I I was respecting my parents' wishes, but I wholeheartedly think they would understand why I wanted to be me. So finally, in 2020, you know, I thought 2020 was going to be a breakout year, and yeah, it was a pandemic breakout. But you know, I finally felt that I was me. You know. It took a weight off my shoulders, and I just felt I was Julian, I was Jules, which is my nickname, hence Jude. And to me, it was organic. It wasn't a contrived thing. It just seemed to make sense to come together. And it was, you know, finally saying, well, I am Jude. It's my part of my history. It's part of my life. It's part of my, you know, and if I say I'm Jude, here and now, it's like, what else can you say to me anymore? Like I've reached a point now where I'm like, okay, we're done. Everything is forgiven, everything is balanced. We're all moving forward. We've got great vision, purpose, and we're being hopeful. Voila. So that's what it all came down to.
A beautiful full circle thing. The album is Jude. It's new from Julian Lennon. It's good to see you again, Julian. I hope we'll see you playing live. I just want to leave you with one last question, because we talked about your nonprofit a bit, the White Feather Foundation.
Yeah.
One of the things it does is sponsor the Cynthia Lennon Scholarship for Girls, just one of the many things. And I loved reading your mom's books. She sadly passed away in Spain in 2015. What do you think she would have said about Jude?
She would have just said something like, "Good on you," you know. That as simple as that, you know, would have been, you know, you found your way, you know.
Well, good on you, Jules. Good to see you, my friend, and I hope to see you in Texas sometime soon.
Thank you, Jody.
Take care, bro.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
All right.